Hello, this is Michiel Borkent from the Netherlands, and this video is about Clojurists Together and how they sponsored me in Q4 of 2020 for the second time, because they also sponsored me in Q3 of 2020. So this was ideal for me during the lockdown. I could not go anywhere anyway, so why not spend a lot of time on my open source projects on which I enjoy working anyway. So yeah, this is a thank you video for everyone who is donating to Clojurists Together. It's an amazing organization. They sponsor critical open source software, and I'm really flattered that they consider my projects as critical software. So what did they sponsor? So they have sponsored Clj-kondo, Babashka, and Psy. These are my three main projects that I spent most of my time on. But they are also sponsoring, of course, other developers. So let's see, in the news section here, you see the funding announcements for each project that they are funding. So Q4, so they are a bit behind schedule. So Q4 ran from December and February, January and February in 2021. But yeah, it's so then they sponsored my projects, but also these other projects. So Calva I'm most familiar with because they also use Clj-kondo inside their editor plugin. And the other is O'Doyle Rules with Zach Oakes, a rules engine. It's really exciting stuff what Zach has been doing. And this other one, I must confess honestly that I haven't looked at it very much. But yeah, it looks very interesting. So it's a bridge between Clojure and R. Well, it is fantastic that Clojurists Together sponsors these projects. And in this video I want to take some time to run through some issues that I fixed in Q4, just as a way of saying thanks, what I've been able to do in my projects. Okay, so I selected a couple of them. So for Clojurists Together, every 2 weeks I have to send in a report of what I've been up to, what is the progress on my projects, just for them to see if I spend time on these projects in the way they envision this for their funded projects. So what I do is, personally, I keep a list of the main projects. So those are Babashka, Psy, and Clj-kondo. And I just keep a list of all the issues that I've been fixing or new features. And I also have a miscellaneous section where I put maybe some experimental new projects that I've also been working on that are related to maybe these other projects. So I have let's see, I have six of these reports for Q4, because every 2 weeks I send in a report, and from these reports I made a selection of issues that maybe I could briefly mention. And I want to keep this video within half an hour. So within half an hour I should be able to cover these new features. And if I'm done sooner, that's also fine. Let's see. Let's start with the first one. So expose add depths in Babashka depth. So what does this mean? It means in Babashka, in a script, you can add dependencies directly without having an external depth Eden or an external class path argument. So let's demonstrate this with a script. Require Babashka-deps as deps, and then you can say deps add deps, and here is a deps map. It's a full deps Eden map, so I've chosen it this way so you can do a slurp from an existing deps Eden map. So you can say, well, my example is always medley. Maven version, I think it's, what version do they have? 1, 3, I forgot. Let's see. Medley Clojure. So this is going to take a while if I keep forgetting things. It was a little bit of a late night yesterday because I had to do a presentation on a GraalVM conference, which was very exciting for me. 130. But this is why I'm a little bit tired. It wasn't late when I did the presentation, but the conference ran until almost midnight. So let's see, it was an online conference, which was nice because I don't think I would have gone there if the conference wasn't online. So that's, you could say it's one of the benefits of the lockdown. Okay, now you can refer medley core, they have an index by function, which is pretty neat. So you can say index by ID, and then I have some maps with ID 1, foo 1, ID 2, foo 2, I don't know. And now you can print this, and let's see if this works. So I go to the terminal, I open a new one because some fresh state for you. And now we execute this script, foo. So it takes a while because it's going to invoke deps Eden or tools deps via the JVM. But the second time this is fast because it's cached. It's cached in the it's a global it's a global cache file, I think. Maybe it's in Clojure. Yeah, it's stored here, so it's not even polluting your directories if you don't have a deps Eden. Well, that's nice. I didn't even know that. So yeah, now it's fast. So you see, and this is fast because it uses class path caching. So temp foo. So now you can add dependencies directly in your scripts. So that is what the first feature was about. I've also added a closure function in the same namespace, which is a way to invoke a closure process. So instead of doing this in Babashka, this is a Babashka script. We can now say we don't need this anymore. Oh yeah, so I will change this now to deps closure, and then it will accept a vector of arguments. So we can say sdeps. Now we pass this to closure, and this will invoke a JVM process where you just run closure. You run the closure REPL with these dependencies. But this returns a process, a Babashka process, and you have to explicitly wait for the process to end, else the script will immediately exit. So we put an @ sign in front of this. So if we now run this, I hope it will do the correct thing. So now we have a closure REPL, and we can medley core SM, for example, and that works because we now pass this depth map as an argument to the closure command. So this is how you can invoke or start a closure REPL from a Babashka script. There is one caveat, because if you do arrow up, that doesn't work, because you need our RL rep. So if you want to spawn a closure REPL from a Babashka script, you still need to manually do RL rep in front of this. And now it works like the other one, like the Clj command, right? So now the arrow keys work. But so I exited the script, and now it prints. Babashka always prints the last value from the script. So if you don't want this, you can put a nil here. But you can you can use this in all kinds of ways to invoke a closure process. What you can, for example, do, that's a script that I demonstrated to someone in the Tools Depths channel, is I added this script in the Babashka examples. Download aliases. Yeah, so what this does is it will run over all your aliases in your depth-eden file, and then it will create a command with all the aliases and -p, and -p forces downloads of your dependencies. And when you then invoke this command, it will just download your depths, but -p doesn't start a REPL or anything. This is what depths, the closure function either returns nil or it returns a process. But in this case, it returns nil because there is no REPL invocation or a main invocation. So now it returns nil. So you don't have to wait for something. So this is so if you want to check this in all cases, you should do something like this: sum, and if it returns something, it's a process, and then you can do dref to wait for it. So that is the closure function. You can use this for spawning closure processes. You don't have to install anything on the side, by the way, because this uses the depth-clj project, which is a re-implementation of the closure bash script in Clojure itself, and that is packaged with Babashka. So you don't have to install anything beyond this. And I also expose this closure function as a command line argument for Babashka. So you can also say bb closure, then it will just start a closure REPL for you. So this is, instead of doing this, you can now say bb closure. So you can use it in as a closure CLI stand-in. Okay, next feature. Let's see, what more do we have? So, I'm already at 13 minutes, so I'm not sure if I'm going to make it within half an hour, but let's try. So, I also made a buddy pod. And what is a buddy pod? But this project is a Babashka pod which exposes the buddy library to Babashka. So in Babashka, not all libraries are compatible with Babashka, especially not libraries that contain all kinds of classes that are not part of the default Babashka distribution. And this buddy library, which is a hashing library and in general a security library for Clojure, it contains a lot of classes that Babashka doesn't have. This library is based on what Bouncy Castle, I think, is the library. And Babashka doesn't have that, so you cannot run this library from source. But if you cannot run the library from source, you can make a pod. And a pod is basically another command line tool which acts as a RPC server to Babashka. So, and in a pod you can expose namespaces, and these namespaces you can invoke directly from a Babashka script. So that's what we see here. We load the pod, and this is automatically downloaded. This is also a new feature. I can get into that as well. But the pod is directly downloaded, and after that you can require these namespaces, and now you can say, I want to invoke nonce random bytes 64, and you get a result. And this result you can pass into another function. Let's see, secret. Where is this used? Secret. I don't see it. Oh, here. Yeah. So this is another pod function, and this is also another pod function. So we can combine these as long as they just return data and accept data. It works pretty well with pods. So you can see this script. Let's see. Let me paste that in here and then try it out. bb temp foo. So that works pretty fast because the pod was already downloaded on my machine. If that wouldn't be the case, let me delete this pod. Registry. Oh. Pods, register, repository, yeah. Org Babashka body. Let me just delete it. And now I will invoke the script again. Now you see it will download the pod and then successfully installed it. Next time it's bloody fast. So that's the buddy pod. It wraps the buddy library in a pod. But this thing, if you call load pod with a qualified symbol, it will go to another new thing, which is the pod registry, a thing that I made where all the most used pods are available using a manifest file. So this pod buddy is located here. So it has a manifest file in the pod registry, and it just tells Babashka where to download the pod for your operating system and architecture. So that's basically what the pod registry is. And you can see the entire list of pods here. And it's a nicer way of not having to install the pod via brew or download it manually, for example. This is a pretty convenient way of using pods. So I hope this also encourages people to make their own pods, and I might do a video about that in the future. Okay, next feature, new linter unresolved var. I can show that. So in Clj-kondo, if you do closure string as str, you then type str foo, then now Clj-kondo will say this is an unresolved var. What does that mean? It means Clj-kondo knows by default what vars are in the closure string namespace, and it also knows that foo is not one of them. So if I would type join, it will say, no problem. But if I do join x, it's unresolved because it doesn't know this var. So that's a new feature in Clj-kondo. In the latest release that I probably will release today, it also works in this spot where you say join X. It's also unresolved. Yeah. Join X is revert never used. That's, yeah, not in this way. Yeah, that's true. So now this var is also unresolved when you use it directly and refer. That wasn't true in the previous release, but this will work in the release that will be out today. So that's unresolved var. What's the time? 20 minutes. Okay, yeah. So next feature is in Babashka we included hiccup. Hiccup at the core as HTML, a ref foo, and then I don't know, maybe a paragraph. Hello. So this means you can use hiccup directly from Babashka. So that works. Yeah, it's very convenient, I think, to have a hiccup in Babashka. So that's why it was added. Previously, I had my own hiccup function, which was 20 lines or so, which worked pretty well. But people just expect something like this to be there in Babashka, especially when you want to create your static HTML websites or serve some HTML from a web server. So Babashka also has a web server, HTTP kit or HTTP kit server as serve or something. So what you can do, let's see, I have the Clj-kondo sorted namespace linter on by default. So what you can do, so this is HTML, right? Now we can say srv run server. It wants a handler, so you can say body HTML, and now on some port, I think this works, and I think you should also dereference this, or I think you should wait explicitly because else the process will exit. Let's try. Now we go to localhost 1890, and there we can see hello. Why don't I see any links? Because I don't have any body in my HTML tag link. Okay, let's try again. Now there is a link, and I can click it, and it goes to foo. Yeah, this is pretty neat, isn't it? You can do this in milliseconds. Hello link, yeah. I'm pretty excited about this. So hiccup, yeah, we included core match in the Babashka as well. It was by request. A lot of people wanted this to enhance their scripts. Clojure core match sm. So what's also nice about core match is that you can build a small router. So this is the request handler, and it has keys. So let's print the keys for a moment. Do a request. So here you have the keys, and you can dispatch on the URI and the request method. So let's do that. Okay, juxt. Always good excuse to use juxt. Juxt request method, and what more did we have? URI. I have a very short-term memory, as you can see. URI. So now we get a vector of the request method and URI. So we can say mmatch on this vector, and then if you have a get and slash, we say body Okay, let's do HTML. And if you have get with foo, then we say body foo. Okay. I'm just improvising a little bit. And if nothing matches, then you get an exception. So let's see what happens. I'm going to the normal URL here. So it says hello link. And when I press link, you see I have no matching clause get foo. That's weird. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so it should work like this. Pretty error message. Now you see it works. So foo, hello link, and then you say foo. So you can build a pretty simple router from only core match, which may be not the most performant thing. Let's see, what's it? It may not be the most performant thing, but if you need ultimate performance, you should not be using Babashka, probably. So I think this is a good combination for maybe internal websites or websites with low traffic, or I mean, we can put a time around this just to see how long this request takes, right? Maybe it's okay even for websites with some more traffic. Oh, I don't have a fav icon handler. Well, we can say, okay, else nil. Let's see. That works. Yeah. So the request takes, we have two requests, one fav icon probably and one other. And it takes 1/10 of a millisecond. That's pretty awesome, actually, isn't it? Only 1/20th of a millisecond. Well, it's pretty fast even. So maybe it's okay to use this for more than homebrewed web applications. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Okay. Let's see. Next feature. Babashka-fs. Okay, yeah. So Babashka-fs is a library for file system. I'm so bad at typing. For file system manipulations, and it's based on Java Neo, but it has some nice, convenient file system utilities. So you can say glob, for example. I want to glob on current directory, and then I want to see all the jar files, for example. I don't know, I don't have any jar files here, but if I go to my, well, I have in my M2 folder, I have, of course, jar files. Oh, you can't see this probably because I have a resolution that doesn't fit the recording resolution. So my monitor is a little bit higher than the recording. So I'm sorry if you didn't see some of the output earlier. Let's see, bb temp foo, and now it will spit out too many jar files because this is a very bad example. Okay, let's go to repository and then inside Babashka. Okay, that should be okay. Now you see it spits out these jar files. And these are Unix paths. So if you want to convert this to just strings, you just do map str. And now we get these. It has all kinds of functions. So you can say filter fs directory. directory. Well, none of the jar files is a directory, so that's an empty list, of course. You can, what more do we have? We have a lot of functions in Babashka-fs. Babashka-fs. So the documentation is over here. So we have a long list of functions. Probably the glob function took me most of the time to implement because this doesn't directly map to a Java Neo function, but a lot of the functions do. So you can move things, you can copy things, you can copy entire file trees. Let's see where it is. Copy tree. So you can see you can copy an entire directory with subdirectories. Well, it has a lot of functions, and in Babashka this makes sense to have all these functions because it's a scripting tool, right? So we already had Clojure-Java.io, which has nice functions, but this is just an addition to that. Yeah, okay, the next feature. Core match I already discussed, but this is also in the context of Clj-kondo. I discussed that also in the release notes video for the last release of Clj-kondo, but since I had some code here anyway, I can show it again. So normally you can, what you can also have here is a default. Well, you can introduce bindings here, AB for example, and you can say body AB, yeah, or maybe put a string around it just to be sure. Clj-kondo didn't understand this introduction of the bindings in core match because core match is a macro with a lot of syntactic constructs. And now it supports this macro out of the box, which is cool. Let's try this one more time. So if I go to bar, you will now see get and bar. So A, this is nicer, A and BP. So we return this map with, and this catches all the things because this always returns a vector of 2 things. So that's our default case. And now we see, okay, it bound the right values to the right symbols. And now Clj-kondo also understands this. One nice thing inside the interpreter in Babashka that I added was it detects cyclic load dependencies. So if you have a namespace that refers to another namespace, which then refers to the namespace you were already in, it will now nicely report an error for this. Maybe I can reproduce this. So I can say ns. I don't know really if I... ns foo require bar. I should probably make files for this, but you should try this out at home. It takes too long to show right now, but you should just believe me. Excuse me. I think I do have a screenshot of this. So if you now have this problem, it will print. It printed like this. So we had a namespace which referred MKL Atom, which referred to MKL posts, and that referred to MKL view, and this view again referred to MKL posts. So this is the similar error messages that Clojure itself gives for cyclic dependencies, and Psy now also supports this, and thus Babashka also supports this. Linting nested function literals. Yeah, I also have a screenshot of that. So this is not valid in Clojure if you have two. Well, this I can easily show. Inc. one, for example. So this is not valid because you cannot nest anonymous or function literals, they are called in Clojure. And now Clj-kondo will also report this. What's also new in Clj-kondo latest, which will be released today hopefully, is if you have an invalid symbol like foo, and previously after this Clj-kondo would just give up, but now it will continue linting with just as if this doesn't exist. It will report that it is invalid, but then it will just continue. So now we still get the type error for this increment on a keyword, for example. And what's also new in Clj-kondo latest is when you have something like this, do 1, 2, 3. Now these expressions are redundant because they don't do anything. So if I would do prn foo, this would do something, a side effect, but this expression still doesn't do anything. So it says redundant expression 2. Yeah, well, I'm almost through the list. Just to conclude, I also do, along with Clj-kondo, Psy, and Babashka, I also do some other projects just as an experiment or just because I'm excited about a new idea. And one idea I've been trying out is ToolsDeps native. To compile ToolsDeps itself as a native library with GraalVM. And this now works. So if, let's see, it works, but it has a couple of rough edges, let's say. So let's go to the project. Dropbox, dev, Clojure, tools, native, experiment. No. Where is this? ToolsDeps native. Yeah, okay. So if I execute this, it's instant. Wow. So let me try. What does it do? You just give it a depth map and it prints out a class path. That's all it does at the moment. So let me remove Babashka-fs from my M2 repository. So we can show that it will download the dependency for you. So it now downloads Babashka and then it prints the class path. But when we do it again, it's instantaneous. And this is even without any caching. So it doesn't use the cache file that that the Clojure CLI uses in your CP cache directory. It doesn't even do this. This just starts instantly, and then yeah. So I can show you there is no, there is a CP cache, but that's just because I ran it with on the DAVM as well. But I've removed that now. So when I run this, you see there is. Wait a minute, I just removed this. If I didn't remove this, then what did I remove? Okay. It's a directory, so it needs the F flag. Okay, now it's really gone. You can see it's still instantaneous. I don't have a cache for this. It also works with git libs, tools, steps native. Let's see if I still have this in my bash directory. Yeah, so this is git lib. It's also instantaneous. Let's remove this from my git libs just to show you that it works. Babashka. Now it's cloning and it's there. So what possibility does this open? If this works reliably, then we would not need any shelling out to a JVM anymore in Babashka to load dependencies. We can just do this natively and very directly without a JVM. So that's my primary use case, but maybe this could even be used wider, just to speed things up for people in general. There is an issue. Sometimes I have a stuck build in the GraalVM, so it just sits there and it waits. It's probably a deadlock problem, and there is another problem that sometimes manifests, but not all the time. So let's say half the builds work, and sometimes it just doesn't. So I posted an issue on the Oracle Graal repository about this, and I wonder if this is a known issue or not. But so I'm waiting for these issues to be resolved, and if they are resolved, I might continue with this project. But for now, it is what it is. You can try it out to compile it locally, and I also have some binaries that you can just download to try on your machine. Okay, the other project, which is, kind of useful in certain contexts, is depsinfer. And depsinfer will take source code and will then infer the dependencies that you should have used in your deps Eden, without requiring you to have a deps Eden. So let's go there, depsinfer, and then Clojurists depsinfer main. We'll invoke the main now. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, like this. There is an execution error. What is this? No such file or directory. Don't know what. Just copy this. Maybe I made a mistake. Huh. I'm pretty sure I have depsinfer main. Def main. Oh, I should put an M here, I think. So that's a typo in my README. So let me clear the screen and show you. So now it will invoke the main method and it will scan the sources in this project, and then it will propose what dependencies you should have used, and I can compare this with my existing deps Eden, and you can see, well, I'm indeed using Babashka-fs, I'm indeed using Clojure Tools CLI, and I'm using Clj-kondo, that's correct, and version Clj. But let's move my deps Eden aside Eden backup. Okay, now it doesn't have, well, this is a problem because I cannot even run my project anymore. Depths Eden. So this is not a good idea. How can I demonstrate this? Okay. Well, I'm over time anyway, so let's keep going. Let's do org-dude closure, depths Eden. So this is my local depths Eden file. It has a lot of stuff. This is also something in Clj-kondo. It will warn you if you're using a non-deterministic version in depths Eden. So let's see. Infer depths. It's a local root. Oh yeah, extra depths. Org-dude infer depths infer. Okay, it's a local root. This should be depths infer. And the local root is users org-dude Dropbox dev closure depths infer. And you need main opts -m depths infer main. So now I can execute this command from anywhere, I hope. So let's go to, I don't know, Clj-kondo. And now I will say m depths infer. Now it will infer the dependencies from the source of Clj-kondo. And it says, oh, you don't have your M2 indexed yet, because it will first look at all your dependencies and then make an index of namespaces to the jar files. And then it will compare the namespaces that it found in the source with that. And then it will propose the libraries. So what I will change probably is this index could just be a global in your global file in your file system that is not project specific. So that's an enhancement I will make. Because this takes a while. But the second time you do this, it's a lot faster. I will show. Because now it will only scan your source files and yeah. So by default, so these dependencies it found. That makes sense because it both scanned my source and my test folder, but I'm not using all dependencies in the sources. So you can change this by saying analyze. So let's see, analyze only the source. Now I should get less dependencies. Okay, so now it will not recommend this conch library, for example, which I'm not using in Clj-kondo itself. Let's see. Let's compare it with project Clj. So here we can see I am using Clojure, of course. I am using transit Clj. Yeah, that's this one. I'm using Lambda Forge Datalog parser. Yeah, 1.8. Cheshire I'm using, yep. nREPL Ben code. Yes. And Psi. Org-dude Psi, yeah. But it also recommends Babashka, and I'm not sure why it does that. But the rest is pretty much spot on. Spot on. Why does it recommend Babashka? I don't know. That I don't know. So that is a false positive. But you can see it's an experimental library and it can be useful in certain contexts. I've been running far too late now, but this was just a list of things I've been doing in the last quarter using funding by Clojurists Together, and I would just want to give a huge thank you to all the people who are funding Clojurists Together, and I hope they will fund many useful projects in the Clojure ecosystem, and that we can keep going things for a long time. Good luck to everyone who will be funded in the next quarter, and I will encourage everyone who is working on open source and has libraries that are critical or could be critical to apply for funding. If you want to have time and money to work on your own open source projects, that's awesome, right? So apply, don't hesitate, just apply. I hesitated a lot in the beginning because I thought, if I apply, I get all this pressure from the community to come up with even more stuff, and I don't know if I can do this, but I work on my open source projects anyway. It's too much fun to not do this, and the funding gave me extra motivation to also work on features that are not only fun but are useful, but maybe a little bit boring to do. So this funding definitely helped me to get more out of my projects than I would have without the funding. So one thing that was relatively boring, for example, to do was to write this documentation page for Clj-kondo. So now this is also a new feature. So there is a documentation page with all available linters and the configuration that goes with it. For example, we have a refer linter, and that's turned off by default, and it has some configuration, and it warrants when you use refer. Some people are use this, but not all. But if you want to see all available linters, you can just look through this list, and it also helps when you have a message in Clj-kondo which says, for example, deprecated. This var is deprecated. Well, you can just Control F is deprecated, and then it will show you the right configuration key and how to turn it off, or how to make the warning into an error, for example. So this was relatively boring to work on, but because a lot of people had asked for this, and I got the funding from Clojurists Together, I did it anyway. But I also did a lot of fun stuff, and I hope it's appreciated by the community. I know it is, because I get a lot of positive reactions on this. And let's keep the Clojure community strong and positive. Let's end on this note. Thank you, and see you on Clojurian Slack, or on YouTube, or on Twitter. And have a good next quarter. Bye-bye.